He said nobody taught him how to play. He said what he used to do, he used to take his violin. He said because the old Indians always said there was music in the air. So he used to go out in the woods with his violin and he used to play. He said you could hear that music. And he could play violin. That's where he learned music, from the woods, he said, from the trees. And he's living yet, that old man. If he was here, he would tell you the same thing. He would tell you a lot of Indian stories about music.
Two guys were fishing. One was a senator. He was fishing on a reservation, and they were, I'd say, a good, I like to brag a little bit. I'd say they were a good 10 miles away, but they were sitting on this stream, and there was a fire going, and the senator was sitting there, and they were having their meal. This senator asked this Indian, he said, the guide, he said, where do I hear that music coming from? Oh, he said, it's about the old South Branch dance hall. My God, he said, that sounds like that man is playing right here. It was my father playing 10 miles away.
You know, he just about knew where he was going to play. So he adjusted his sound post on his violin so the music would carry.
Yeah.
Down the river or what have you. Don't know.
All the people would sit around the lake. That was a big lake, too. And they could hear that music just good. They said that just carried over the water. In the evening, the people would sit down and listen to them play around the lake.
How many children did you have?
I had 20. Yeah. I don't know how many have I got living now?
14.
14.
Did you have some fiddle music in your house?
Yes. A lot of music.
My grandfather there used to work in the woods. He'd go up north. They'd stay all winter. Then different ones would come in there to start playing instruments, and Grandpa Dave there, he gradually picked that up. And a lot of that stuff that he played was the majority. I'd say about 80% of it was his own music, but then he'd entwine with the music that he heard at the camps.
Were there some good step dancers out in the camps?
Oh yes, every Saturday night there was a step dancer, the Frenchman. His nose was bigger than mine, but he was a good step dancer.
My grandfather, I think he played this tune. I don't know the name of it. And I don't even know what my dad was singing about when he was singing it in French. My grandfather was a Quebec Frenchman, and my dad was from him. And my mother is Indian, Chippewa Indian. That makes me French Indian.
I should have been a drum player, you know, beating the drum instead of being a violin player, because I'm so close to being a full-blooded Indian. And there's the proof right here. That's my grandmother. She is a registered ward of the government, full-blooded Chippewa Indian.
He called it size tune. And some other ones even called it Dick's tune, but it wasn't mine. It was size. It was on the 4th of July, and I went swimming on down Sugar Island there. And I remember my mother telling me, well, you better get home early before dark. So I left the swimming hole and started back. And I was coming up there was one highway, and there was a front path where the people lived. Nobody lived on the highway. And I thought for sure I'm not coming through there. It'd be shorter, but what about a bear? So I started to come up the front path, and there was a bunch of people standing near a house, and the windows and the doors were open. And boy, I could hear a fiddle playing there. it was an old Indian playing that fiddle. And that was I had never saw the man before, yeah. But yes, because I asked who was that old man. They said, oh, well, he lives in at the reservation, Garden River. Well, I said, boy, does that feller ever play. And the things that he did there, it still bothers me. It's still yet today. And it sure did bother me after that. It bothered me all that night. Even after I got home, I tried to get it on the fiddle that my dad had. But that was the old man, and his name was Simon Mass, an Indian from Garden River Reservation, and that really made me, I had to get with it. I had to do something about it. So when I was about 10 years old, and I thought, well, that's going to be the time I want to conquer that thing from my own feelings anyway. Because I remember when I was smaller, and my dad had that fiddle hung up on the end of his bed on the wall, and he used to tell me, don't you ever touch that thing. Well, I used to be standing on the bed, and I remember when he wouldn't be home, I'd take it down, and just even to hear the sound of that thing on the bed, and I was real careful of it, because I know it was precious, and I'd hang it up to make sure he never found out that I had touched it.
And my dad would go in the bedroom and he'd play, after work. There was no TV them days, but my father would come home and have his supper. And I don't know if he used to get lonesome or what for his dad or his brothers or what have you, but he'd take his violin down and he'd go play in the bedroom. In the meantime, my older brothers, they made banjo out of round oatmeal boxes. Cigar boxes, and then they put fish line on there, But they never went in the bedroom where my father was playing. They'd be sitting in the front room, and my dad would be playing in there, and they'd, kind of keep in time with him there.
He always took the bow like that, and he'd hit the floor, and when he hit the floor, we knew we had to jig, whether we knew how or not. And I started when I was about 4 years old. When I'd listen to my father play violin music, I would sit there and automatically my foot would start beating, and my dad knew I had music in me. So then he'd hit the floor with his bow like that, and I knew I had to get out there and jig. And if I didn't, I got the razor strap. So that I started jigging when I was about 4 years old to his music.
I guess he bought it when it was years ago for $15, you said, no? And he fixed it up so it could sound louder than a normal violin. And what he done, he put porcupine quills inside the box of the violin. And he put a deer bone up here at the neck for the strings to rest on.
Got Indian medicine on there, he said.
And nobody could ever touch that violin when he was living. He was real particular about that.
It was just like, for me, to be picking up an egg, and it was so delicate to me. It meant a lot.
Where's my Coke? Where's my popcorn? Would everyone please stand up? The chimney door, Gin Kinagego, Kitabendan, Kikendan, Anin Uma King Ishwebak. Big Sven me go nongum Gishagak, the Kinanoia, the no which went what, the Nendaus what, Jimmy Wish.
At this time, I let Frank Boyer take over.
Well, folks, a great big good afternoon to you. We've got some exceptional talent, folks. We got some good step dancers, and we're going to put on a good show here. Have yourselves a good time, folks. Let's have a big hand for Highway Girls. Have a big hand for these people over here, folks. Good steppers.
I learned my step dancing from my grandmother and my aunties here, my mom. They used to take me to socials when I was younger, and I'd sit and watch them, and she'd take me in the kitchen while she was cooking, and she'd listen to the music and dance around. And my dad used to play guitar, so every Sunday we'd have dances, you know, just before we'd go off
picnic.
Yeah, go off on a picnic. He'd play the guitar and we'd have to dance, or else we couldn't go play. But I do take a lot of my moves from my dancing that I do in the powwow arena. Sometimes at powwows, like in the evening after the drumming's closed up, we have jigs and dances after then, or like in the evening time for the adults. And we have different fiddlers from all over the place because powwows attract people from like all over the area, so you usually can just call people from the audience and they'll come up and play.
Okay, folks, here we go.
I remember my grandmother telling me they'd go to a dance, you know. That's what they did in those days. And my old great-grandmother and her friends, they wanted to step dance, but they didn't all have good shoes, so they have to one take turn using the shoes. I always thought of that. That was funny. But she said that's the kind of times they had, you know.
She'd walk in at, what was it, about 15 miles? And they'd dance till about 11 or 12 o'clock. Then she'd have to walk all the way back because there weren't any cars then. So that's wanting to dance.
That's the ones, yes. And we'd put them on and we'd step dance until the floorboards were ready to break in our apartment or our house. So they kind of weekend boards. But that was a lot of fun. All the Indian students, you know, we have parties and get-togethers, and that's what we do sometimes. Step dance and jig.
line.
You can sense the similarity between some of the rhythms here
Oh,
in
sure.
this old-time music and your traditional drum music?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, like that, you know, really fast jigging music and stuff. That's like the same music, like we scrub or do that we call it the squat dance song. Well, you know, that's not very. It's a women's dance, you know. And that word just got tagged on it, but that's an old Ojibwe dance, women's dance. It's and it's got the same, you know, kind of, you know, this kind of stuff as you're doing the step dancing and that. So the rhythm's the same to me.
Play. And there's a beat there. Hear it? Go with the music. Hear that? That's how you keep time. Okay, now, watch me. So watch me the way I do it and listen to the music.
Watch your feet.
You all got that foot beat. And you set your tempo in the same way with the drum. In the same way with the dancer or the square dancing or you set your tempo. But you're always thinking, you know, in your back of your mind that this is home and we're going to play this music and it recalls of people left us, their ancestors and what have you. It's got a lot to do with it. The tempo of the music and what have you. And you take the violin and there was a guy, he went out, he was a professional Indian dancer. He toured the whole United States. And he came back. My father met him one time, and they got down together. This guy, my father played a song, Ma, Way to Scopina.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Johnson Wanape?
Mm-hmm.
Remember this song, Ma?
Yeah.
So my dad played that Indian tune, and that fella, he didn't jig, he Indian danced to that tune. So that's as far as I can express it between the drum and the violin.
There's a trick to being a step dancer, too. That's between the fiddler and the step dancer. You almost have to read your minds. The vibes have to be working through one another. You know just how this person's body is going to react, and you have to put the touch on your fiddle.
The dancer keeps time with the violin, but sometimes the speed ain't just right. You understand what I mean? The violin player a little bit just to trifle too fast. That's what the violin player's got to go by.
I don't know why they were going through this little ritual of, you know, all I had to do was just take off. You know, when I play fiddle, I just take off and tell the guy beforehand that, you know, which number I'm going to play, like in D chord or G chord or C or B flat, F, or, you know, any of the chords. I'll tell them where I'm going to be playing. And I won't, you know, if I'm going to play Blue Valley, I'm not going to go. I just, you know, take off. You know, like that. But the old timers, I used to get a kick on them. These, you know, they want to get in, play something in the F chord. They go. And that'd go on for about 2-3 minutes, you know, before they take off.
Now, 2 years ago, me and Danny Boy Pine were invited to go and play in a fiddle contest in Sweden. And they told us we'll never win. Why? Well, we hold our violin right here. If you want to win, you gotta hold your violin right here.
Difference between fiddle and violin, which is it's about 150 miles difference. A fiddle, you play a fiddle like. Now a violin, you play a violin.
You see, the guitars didn't come in here till in the middle 40s, maybe. Guitar players. And that's all they ever done around here. They call it the second fiddle when they're bucking with another violin. See? When I was young, I used to do that for a fellow by the name August Wade lived up north up here. He was the violin player, see, all the deaths before I started. I used to sit there and buck for him, and I thought it was great, you know, for me to do that. Stay up all night, get sleepy, but still I'd go anyway. Yeah, that was the big deal here at one time. Use the second fiddle. Then finally, when the guitars come, the bucking faded away. Then they chord with the guitar. Yeah.
We're doing C chord.
That was the lumberjack breakdown. Ben cheated machi nato. Maybe that's it. New way warm. Это что это? Это мне говорит, сколько десять кану.
That tree was there a long time before you.
Yeah, I know it. I'm going to have to cut it down.
Pretty quick.
I worked in the woods most of my life. It's the only occupation that I was comfortable with. I've done other types of work, but I always ended back in the logging camps. And I played a lot of music. I was very young when I started. And we even had square dancers in the camp. Some men would put a sheet around them, and one was, you know, 4 of them, so they'd make for the women. And then they'd have partners. We had a lot of fun. Those were all clean fun, you know. No, there was no alcohol involved or nothing, and we just had a lot of fun. And this used to be Saturday nights and Sundays, because during the week, the lights were out at 9 o'clock. There was no electricity then. It was all kerosene lamps. And we'd stay in the camp 4 or 5 months at a time. Come out in town and I played mostly in bootleggers in Canada at that time. But we'd run out of money, or I would, and eventually I'd be broke, and I'd have to pawn my fiddle to go back to camp. Sometimes I even pawn it to get a taxi to go back to camp, or sometimes just to get a bottle. Then I'd go back the same old thing again, year after year. My whole story just about revolves in alcohol. Up until I was 48 years old, that was in 1973. And I think the Great Spirit had been watching over me all these years. And he probably just got tired of the way I was running my life. And the people I had to lean on was the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I can play music today without having to get drunk or anything like that. I'm at peace. So I like to play this tune here. I've been playing it for quite a while, and I never had no name for it. And I'd like to call it One Sober Night in Manitoulin Island. Mr. Dennis. Ladies all, breakdown. I play there about every Sunday. I can speak the language, and I can relate good with the people there. A lot of them are my relatives, and they really enjoy. It doesn't take very much for them to get back in the groove, you'd call it, I guess, because it's the type of music they were used to when they were growing up.
Then it got real dark, and I was scared to go home. But then I remember my mother said, you better get home before dark. And here it is way after dark, and I was still there standing at the window, listening to the old man playing that fiddle in there. But when he got done, somebody else took over, and I left, and I went home. And well, the first thing I did when I got home, I got out to fiddle and tried. I think I've stayed up most of that night trying to just see what that old guy did. But while I was in school, I had to be studying. But still, there was something else just bugging me like that in my mind. You know? And then to go to sleep at night, it's something else. And, well, that still bothers me yet. Before I fall asleep, I imagine I hear somebody playing some tune, yeah.
And we were sitting downstairs, and we heard music, and he had his bedroom upstairs, you know, Alec, that one room. And my sister says, can you hear music? And I told her, I says, yeah, she says. Oh, I says, don't scare me, I told her. I feel spooky, I told her, and you could hear that music, you know. I said, there ain't anybody here that can play music. I said, listen, she said. It's upstairs in Alec's bedroom. Geez, we could hear music. She said, let's go up there. I told her, you go first, I'm scared, I said. So she went up, and that door was closed. And there this retarded boy was in there playing that violin. He wasn't playing the music, but he was chording like, you know, and he was right in time.
I have a cousin. His name is Sugar John, they call him. He used to be a fiddler. And he told me this guy, he dreamt about this fiddler coming to visit him, and the guy played the violin. And when he put the fiddle away, he started walking away, and when he went out the door, he had horns on his head. And
yeah. And I heard that the fiddle was, it was well, that's what I heard them mention.
What did they say?
The devil's instrument. I guess my grandfather said that his father told him, don't ever bother with that instrument. It's just no good. It's a devil in it. He said that's the same as drinking whiskey. You play that thing and drinking whiskey, you're playing the devil's instrument and drinking his blood. So he said, you leave it alone.
Alec's father used to go and play Saturday nights, and that's against the Catholic religion in them days, you know, to play to a dance on a Saturday night. That was bad if you were a good Catholic, you know. And his dad was a good Catholic, go to church every Sunday. And this priest heard about that, how he'd play to them big dances, you know, violin. And the priest told him, when you come to church next Sunday now, you want to bring your violin, I want to look at it. He said, okay, he says. So the next Sunday he brought his violin there and he took it to the priest's house. He gave it to that priest and he took it and he opened it up. Yeah, he said, this is a bad thing. He said, there's a devil in that, he said. Oh, he says, he went to the table and he had a little axe there. And he didn't say nothing. He took that violin and he chopped it all up, chopped it into pieces. Now, he says, you don't play to no dances on Saturday night, he said. And his father didn't think anything of it because he was a real good Catholic, his dad. He didn't think anything of it. But then he went and he bought himself another violin.
Anybody that plays a violin is a devil. He's a devil within his own self. He's strictly a devil. So I got my chum over here. It's got his dad. It's a devil. And this guy, he's the number one. This guy can play fiddle. I'm telling you.
Hooked up in the fiddle, you know, right? I can't play loud. I never did play loud.
What do you see in your head when you're playing a tune?
I see the dancers. I used to dance all the time. I just went blind like this about, I've been blind about 40 years now. That is not stone blind like I am now. Hell, I can't see you sitting around here now. But before I used to see, and I dance and everything. My favorite tune's the First Change. Well, now, see, I'm getting pretty old to play the breakdowns now. It's too fast for me, see. But the First Change is kind of, you know what's a first change, don't you? And the square dance and the second change a little faster, the breakdown, and that's a fast tune. I like the first change, and I like them first change tunes.
That brings back a few memories for you?
Yep. Every time I play it, I mean, I just, you know, I could, it's like I could see, you know, the older people dancing to that and, you know, playing it and laughing and singing. It brings back memories, yeah.
What advice would you give to a young person who wants to play the fiddle?
To never try to play a tune that you don't know all the way through. You know, after you learn anyway, after you know how. The first thing you do, you learn the chords, you know, of course, you know, when you're going to play. And then after you play, to play a tune, never try to play a tune that you don't know it. Because you'll learn it the wrong way every time.
Then there was a fellow that was out here, a fellow by the name of Dan Decoro. He was really a French Canadian. He used to tell me, never change the way that he showed me them tunes, you know, like the Red River Jig. He said his grandpa showed him how to play the Red River Jig. Well, that's got to be at least 200 years old, Red River Jig, on his way, the way he showed me. See. And I kept that up. I'll never change for nobody. I don't care how pretty it sounds the other way. I won't change. On account of that old man, you know. He showed me how to play them, and they said that was the right way you're supposed to play them. And that's how.
Yeah, I stick things in there that don't belong in there, and then I probably don't put something that's supposed to be in there. But you know, when it all comes out, it's what what you hear. And Sometimes it don't come out too good.
My advice is, and that's the advice I got from my father, was never try to play like the other person, or never try to copy another person's playing. Try to develop your own style.
Well, this tune's called my version of Road to Buttish.
Square dancing was quite prevalent in the earlier days, in say in the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, you know, because practically everybody was a musician here, you know, played guitars and violins, and everybody knew how to square dance, you know. But it's just kind of faded away with the different types of music, let's say, and then it's never been revived, really.
Right left back when you meet your own. That means when you meet your partner, you go back, start back around and get the other way, see? The other way? Yeah. You swing with the partner and go the opposite way. Come back again. Grand your right and left means go, you know, first to Hellman left, Hellman right, your partners, Hellman left, your corners. And then you go grand your right and left. When you get back to your partner, you right, left, back. When you meet your own, you go back around again and come back to your partner, then combinate. Then first couple, right, left through with a couple you meet. So you come through here and back, and you come back again. See? Okay, you guys have to do the same thing here.
Last time I square danced was up at South Branch, and that's about 30 years ago.
On your partners, right to the left, join your hand and bring to the left. Bring to the left. Hellman, right your partners all, don't get your corners all. And your right to the left. Right to the right and right to the left. Right left back when you meet your own. Right left back when you meet your own.
What happened to the caller that was supposed to be here today?
Passed away. There's another one that's passed away quite a while ago. His name was Jerome Sanapal. Old Joe Teller. My father called, and there were quite a few that were callers around here.
This caller, he called that whole square dance in Menominee, which is incredible. In Menominee language, my dad played that violin, and he sat there. And my dad just sat back there and he played, and the fellow was calling it. And he called that whole square dance in Menominee. And these Indians that were dancing out there, they never got over that. They never heard something like that. Oh, one more time, and where's copy now? That that music box there. He sat there and call Menominee all the way through. Mama, you heard that, didn't you?
Yeah.
So my dad took me over there to cut hair one day. And Bob used to have one of those old hand clippers, you know. So he sat me down on the stool. He put a towel around my neck and started cutting my hair. So his brother come in. So they come in, they were sitting there talking. So I'm still sitting in a chair. So next thing you know, you go and get a couple other guys, and next thing you know, a couple of guitars and a couple of fiddles. And they start playing music. In the meantime, I'm sitting there, supposed to be getting a haircut. So finally, anyway, these guys start playing music and forgot all about me. So I'm sitting there with a half a haircut. Cut me only halfway. So finally, I just got up and I walked and I went in the house, went home. My mother looked at me. What happened to you? I says, well, they got playing music. I says, and forgot about me. So I got half a haircut. So I had to go back a couple of days later. Get him to finish my haircut.
That one's Angie.
Yeah. He was telling me about his dad, my grandfather there. He could be playing violin and tell a story at the same time. He never miss a beat. My grandfather.
He could play violin 2 or 3 days without playing the same tune over. Never played the same tune twice. That would be on 4th of July. On the 3rd of July, all day and all night, and on 4th of July, all day and all night. Never the same tune.
That's hard them days, you know. When they does the square dance, they didn't mow a jig. By God, they kick up the dust so much, you know, when you cough a little bit and you spit it, a mouthful of dirt next morning, you know. Nose full of dust. Oh, yeah.
All the end, and then left, then left, then right, then left. Oh, yeah, right, then right, then left.
my dad, I don't know, played for you. He said, tuned it up, and sat down and grabbed that violin, and he played those tunes. So, okay, my sister had it all recorded on tape. My father, like I say, he was deceased. And the old Indian way is that you'll come back after him. Which way, how, or what? So my little nieces, and they were playing them tapes, and she pushed her button and erased them all. So, okay, and Sister Chip over there, and Chopper, Mama, and I, myself, and the rest of the children had some tapes too. The only tapes that are left is what Chopper's got. Gradually, he's taking them with him.
Great Spirit comes and get him. They say that's really so. There was a lady sitting in a car with me, and that's after Alec died, he was gone, and they were playing in this dance hall, and I was sitting out in the car with this lady, and she believes in that Indian belief, and I told her, I said, and she used to chord too, she used to play piano for him. I says, boy, I says, when all Alec's tapes are gone, I said, nobody knows where they are. She said, they'll never find them tapes. They said he come after all those tapes. He don't want anybody to have them. The Great Spirit or somebody comes and get them.
I think there's about 10 of them of them numbers that I know from this old Dan Dakota that was played 200 years ago. See? And I'm going to remember them all one of these times. If I practice a little bit, I'll get them again. Then I'm going to make a tape for this young man. Mike Kipling's his name. And I want him to know them, to carry it on.
I have a son that is 18 years old. And I picked up, bought him a violin or a guitar. He lays there and don't seem to monkey with it. I got a brother that's got 2 boys. Nothing. They don't seem to have it. There's only one boy that attempts to even look at a violin or a guitar. So what we have, the next generation, what you're asking me is, it looks kind of bleak. All we know is that my father handed it down. And a lot of times he'll say, come on, Rabbit, play Orange Blossom Special or one of them. We always stick to my father's tunes, and they'll come in there. You'll be in a local watering hole, or what do you want to call it there, and come on, Rabbit, go ahead, take off. They'll sit there and they can go maybe 2 changes and they're completely lost. In the younger generation, like I say, what hurts a guy so darn much is that, it ain't their fault, but I'm talking about our immediate family, that we're losing my father and my grandfather and great-grandfather's music.
Well, my father's been dead since 1972 now, and when I sit down at the piano and I do the chords that I did when he was alive and I chorded for him, when I'm sitting there by myself playing those chords, in the back of my mind I can hear my dad's violin music, and that's how I keep my rhythm going and keep changing my chords. And my kids tell me, Mom, what are you doing? I says, I'm playing with Grandpa. And they say, what do you mean? I said, I can hear his music in the back of my mind, and when I get lonesome for him, that's what I do. I sit down at the piano and I chord to all the tunes that I chorded when he was alive.
great chiefs. I could hear, I could feel I'll say the spirit in me, or, there's spirits or something around me that, especially when I'm outside on the porch or, playing out there, especially on the porch in the evening. I could hear, I could hear them, but, they're, it's like I could feel them around me. I don't know. The older fiddlers that passed away, my uncles and my cousins and my grandfathers and the other old fiddlers in the mountains here.
I had a dream, and in my dream, I was out into a field, and in the field, up on the top of the hill, there was a little log cabin, and I could hear some violin music and guitar music coming from there. So I went running up to that cabin, and when I got up to the window, I looked in, and I saw my dad and my two brothers. They were playing their instruments, and they were laughing, and I pounded on the window, and I kept hollering my dad's name. I'd say, Alec, Alec, let me in, and they didn't hear me. So I went by the door, and I kept pounding on the door, and nobody would answer, and I run back by the window, and I tapped on the window again, and I kept hollering their names, but they just kept on playing their music. They didn't hear me. And I woke up and I started to cry. A couple months later, I saw this one old Indian lady, and I was telling her about my dream I had about my dad and my two brothers. I said they were playing, and I tried to get into this log cabin. I said, and they wouldn't let me in. And this old Indian lady says, I want to tell you something. In the old Indian belief, she said, if your dad would have let you into that cabin, she said, you would have died, she says. But they wouldn't let you in, so that's why you didn't die. She said, it wasn't your time to go and to be with them. And she said, the old spirit says that you were left here to carry on your father's music and to play with your brothers to keep his music going. And he said, that's why I didn't die.
Come on, you ladies.